So throughout the lore of the Resident Evil franchise, there have been many catastrophes that became a hallmark of the series, but one of the most iconic of these catastrophes is none other than the Raccoon City incident, where the casualties rose up to more than 100,000. So with this overall disaster, we'll be discussing in this video how the Raccoon City incident occurred, and what were the causes, and why nobody was able to stop the T-virus infection, where we discuss certain criteria that can be explored upon, so we can get a good feel with the story that happens before Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3, with the criteria being the catalyst, communication, corruption, and containment. Anyways, before we get started with the video, I just want to say my name is DeVuH, and I do cover a lot of Resident Evil content, so if you guys enjoyed these types of videos, then please feel free to smash that like and subscribe button for more Resident Evil content in the future, and also maybe sharing this video with a friend and any other social media outlets out there. I'd really appreciate the support. Alright, so starting off, let's go ahead and set the foundation to the overall city's infrastructure, and why it became so vulnerable to the T-virus outbreak, with the main catalyst being the involvement of the Umbrella Corporation, and how it was so entrenched within the Raccoon City's industry, employment, politics, and police force, with its grip on the city being so tight that anyone who dares to try to meddle in Umbrella's affairs would be met with certain repercussions, with Chief Irons being one of the main proponents, which I'll be discussing him in a little bit later in the video as well. Anyways, like I said, the Umbrella Corporation's hold on the city is well pronounced, being portrayed as a citizen-friendly pharmaceutical company, and just the overall power and influence of this corporation in the global market should be recognized, so it's clear that the propaganda of this company has been met with all of its citizens, where it's been part of their daily lives, unsuspecting of their illegal experimentations in the background, with the majority of the city's employment heavily leaning on this one corporation, and it makes sense that most people would look favorably to Umbrella. Also, it was known that the many Raccoon City's council members are under Umbrella's payroll, which would allow them to move with ease within the city, and not attracting any attention due to the bylaws that these crooked politicians have enacted. It also doesn't help that the chief of police, Brian Irons, is heavily involved with Umbrella, where he would receive bribes and would be in constant communication with William Birkin, the Umbrella scientist who created the G-virus.
She is my creation!
So if there was any commotion or any signs of an uproar against Umbrella, Chief Irons saw to it that it would be extinguished as soon as possible, with an extreme example was with Ben Bartolucci in RE3 Remake, where he found out about some of Chief Irons' dealings with Umbrella, then locking him up based on that factor alone.
It's the bastard that locked me in here.
I'm sure he had a good reason.
He did. I was about to blow the whistle on his dirty ass.
Also, the overall police force wasn't so reliable when it came to unveiling the truth about the corruption of Chief Irons, turning a blind eye to all the suspicious activities that this madman has been doing. So with the general premise of Umbrella's hold on Raccoon City covered, let's go ahead and talk about the catalyst that started the outbreak, with the start of the domino effect happening due to some bizarre murders happening at the outskirts of Raccoon City, with the attacks seeming to be cannibalistic in nature, where I found some images based off S.D. Perry's novelization of Resident Evil, where some of the news that happened during this time was reported. Also, I found it interesting how we can see some tidbits of information when it came to the start of the outbreak, but no full investigation was started until July 1998, with the RPD STARS team finally sent to look into the matter at hand, which was due to the increasing uncertainty of the Raccoon City citizens about all these bizarre murders. So we all remember the events that happened in both Resident Evil 0 and Resident Evil 1, where the STARS Bravo team was sent first to investigate the Arklay Mountains, but went missing shortly after.
Nothing in our training could ever have prepared us for the nightmare that ensued. We never stood a chance.
The STARS Alpha team, on the other hand, soon went to look for their missing comrades, to only find out that most of them have already been wiped out by the countless T-virus infected monsters. Also, during Alpha team's investigation, it would have them fight similar monsters that Bravo team had to face at the Spencer Mansion, which also happens to be owned by one of the Umbrella Corporation's co-founders, Dr. Oswell E. Spencer. So with all this brewing of monsters, conspiracies, and the betrayal of Albert Wesker, where we find out that he was actually working with Umbrella, where he was a virologist who researched heavily into producing some of the most powerful bioweapons at the time, while we watched the remaining STARS team endure to the end, and somehow were able to escape the Spencer Mansion, also eliminating the tyrant that was released as well, though the repercussions of the explosion of the mansion didn't come with any positivity, because Umbrella quickly started their cover-up story, with the STARS team being accused of grossly mishandling the situation at the Arklay Mountains, and like I mentioned earlier in the video, on how Umbrella is so entrenched within the city's infrastructure that this same aspect would supersede the STARS members' claims of monsters, and how Umbrella this whole time was creating own BOWs under the facade of a community-friendly pharmaceutical company. So even with all the information that the STARS unit gave to the townspeople and the police force, they ended up being ignored. Even Marvin Branagh from Resident Evil 2 explained what happened.
About 2 months ago, there was this incident involving zombies in a mansion located in the outskirts of this city. Chris and the other STARS members discovered that Umbrella was behind everything. They risked their lives to reveal the truth, but no one believed them.
Which was also not helped by the disbanding of the STARS unit completely by Chief Irons, making sure that the voices of these members didn't hold any weight when it comes to their allegations about the Umbrella Corporation. So with no other choice, the former STARS members concocted a plan to take down Umbrella, with Chris Redfield making his way to the European branch of this corporation, to Barry Byrne taking his family to Canada to secure their safety, and he would then follow up with Chris afterwards. Rebecca on the other hand would lay low, and would later join a group that would be a deterrence for future bioweapons, which leaves both Brad Vickers and Jill Valentine staying behind in Raccoon City, which Jill continued her investigation during this time, and Brad would later be on the run from Nemesis. So with the STARS members' involvement covered, let's talk about the contamination rate and how the communications to the outside world would be stopped, causing the city to finally crumble. Because between mid to late September, it was during this time that the Umbrella USS operatives, which was led by Hong, was tasked to retrieve the G-Virus sample from William Birkin, the man who Chief Irons had been in constant communications with. But the subsequent events would have Birkin almost killed, and caused him to inject the G-Virus on himself. So in the middle of his rampage and battle with the operatives, some of the T-Virus samples was spilled in the sewer area, with the many rats ingesting this viral strain, which this would lead to the contamination of the Raccoon City's water supply. But unlike the ones who were bitten by zombies and then turning into one, instead the people who ingested this T-Virus contaminated water would slowly show the gradual metamorphosis of becoming a zombie, with a great depiction shown here in the comics, where we have one citizen showing clear signs of infection. And the ironic part is, he's drinking the exact same contaminated water that's turning him into a zombie, with even the news stating that the people should continue to drink lots of fluids to feel better. Anyways, with all this going on, most of the population has already been infected, while the overall communications to the outside world was cut off by none other than Chief Irons. He also ordered some of the police officers to make sure to barricade all the outgoing highways of the city, making sure that no one would be able to leave. Also, while all this was happening, the US government knew about the situation, but instead made the public outside of Raccoon City aware that there was just a radiation spill, and ordered the National Guard to hold a perimeter around the city to quarantine everyone inside. So with the lack of communication, the catalyst of the T-Virus in the water supply, and the corrupt individuals turning a blind eye, this all culminated to make the Raccoon City incident possible, with the events of Resident Evil 3 clearly depicting it at the opening cutscene, with most of the population being attacked by zombies, while a whole crowd of them walking towards the police force, with the RPD's officers' last-ditch effort to stop this outbreak, which also proved to be unsuccessful, because even Brad Vickers mentioned that the police weren't trained to handle a situation like this, which explains the fall of the RPD station as a whole. And at the same time, Umbrella sent their mercenaries to save anyone in the city, but their true objective was to collect battle data from all the monsters in the outbreak, and to test out their tyrants against some of the survivors, while at the same time eliminating any loose ends that could implicate Umbrella to the T-Virus. But in the end, the combination of all the factors that caused this incident would finally be dealt with the bombing of the whole city finally being wiped off the face of the map, which brings us to our discussion to a potential Resident Evil 3 remake, because the events of this catastrophe happens in the span during the timeline of RE3, so they could implement more of a backstory in the future remake, where they would show how the STARS team was disbanded, and show us how slowly the citizens of Raccoon City became zombies. Also, they can show how Umbrella sent the Tyrants during this event as well, where we see the many T-103 model Tyrants like Mr. X roam around the city, and maybe we could possibly see how Nemesis was created and dropped off like Mr. X as well. So all in all, there's so much interweaving narratives that could flesh out the story of Resident Evil 3 Remake, which is a great thing. So we can finally have one coherent story that would explain the Raccoon City incident, while at the same time we follow the escape of Jill Valentine and how she deals with all the monsters in front of her. Anyways, what did you guys think about the Raccoon City incident? Did you guys like the overall premise of it? Or could they have done something else to prevent this catastrophe? Please let me know and why on the comment section down below. Also, if you guys enjoyed enjoyed this content, then please feel free to hit that notification bell icon so you guys can be alerted when I upload my next Resident Evil video. Anyways, thank you guys so much, and as always, you guys have a great rest of your day, and this is Hey DeVuH, signing out.